Hello, and welcome back to Key Lights here on Princeton Community Television. I'm Misha, and you're used to seeing me, Rachel, and Jenny. We're the three co-hosts of Cue the Lights. That's kind of the three of us are this little brand. The two of them have graduated and are now off to college, and they're off doing either summer vacation or getting a head start in college courses. So today, co-hosting with me, I have my exchange student from Spain,
Hi.
Ines. And you've seen her before because I interviewed her when she was here on exchange living with me for a month earlier in the year.
Yeah, in October.
And here with us today, our guest is Anoushka. She's going to be a freshman at Lawrenceville, and she is a poet, a published poet at that. So, to start with chronology, why don't you tell us about how you got started with poetry or the earliest time you were writing it?
Yeah, so when I started writing, I was about 8 years old. Originally, I kind of just started writing songs, but then over time I realized that there are more poetry than songs, and so I've just been writing ever since, and writing just anything that really comes to my mind.
So have you always been has it always been something serious from the start, or was there a point in writing your poetry that you were I really want to pursue this, and you started to work more at it?
So at first, it was really just a hobby, but over time I started showing my poems to my mom or dad, and they were really the first people who said that that my poems were really good, and then from there I started sharing them with teachers and friends, and until it ended up becoming a book.
Wow. What are some themes and topics that inspire you, that you write about?
So for me, really anything can inspire poetry, but things that I tend to write about a lot are if I've had a tough situation with a friend, or a lot of times I'll take a scene or a place and just describe it in detail. But really for me, what I've found is that the things that you least expect to write about are really what make the best poems. And so I really just take anything in my life or anything that I just think about and try to write about it, or if I have an idea that comes to mind.
So has your subject matter changed over time as you've matured, as well as your technique and style of writing?
Yeah, I think definitely I've grown in how I've been writing over the years. I think at first I was writing more about things in nature and simpler things, and then over time as I've grown up and experienced different things, I've started writing about those.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And so you've published your poetry, so I guess we can start talking about that, and if you want, you can even read some of your favorite poems if you'd like, and we can talk about them.
Yes, definitely. So this first poem I'm going to read is called Speechless, and I wrote this about kind of how it's pretty much kind of about how I write poetry and how words and all those things kind of flow for me. So yeah. Words. They're everything I love and hate at the same time. Sometimes they pour out of me. Other times they stop. Like a drought. No more water, no more words. Words build me up and break me down. Like they say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words, wait, no. Words do hurt me. They bring tears, smiles, sadness, joy, until the drought is back. No more words, no more me.
Wow.
I'm
I
speechless.
have in your book, where do you talk about? You talk about kind of everything, or do you have one theme, one
So really,
subject?
in the book, there's poems that are about all different things, because the book is a collection of things that I've been writing since I was 8 years old. So there's a lot of different things that I write about then that I don't really write about now. So yeah, really just anything, a lot of stuff about nature or things in my life, or just abstract things, or just places and visual things.
That's so cool.
And I know that earlier, when we were having a conversation before the interview, I asked you, when does the inspiration strike? And when it strikes, what happens?
Yeah, so a lot of times I'll think of something like when I'm about to go to sleep. So what I do is I keep a journal next to my bed. So if I wake up in the night and I have this idea, I don't just like forget by the time the morning comes, because there have been times where I've had a really good idea and then I would say, oh, I'll just write it down in the morning, and then in the morning I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
And so I keep this journal next to my bed, and there have been a lot of times where I've written something really good and I just write it down, and I'm like so glad that I keep that journal there. But really, for me, ideas, and they just come when they come. Like there's no really predicting when a good idea is going to come, like, because anything can really inspire you to write, for me.
Okay, speaking of good ideas, just like those, when did you come up with the idea that you were going to publish your poetry?
So publishing was actually not my idea. It was my mom's idea. So for a long time, I had been writing poems, and the only person I would show them to was my mom. So she would keep them like on her phone and read them, and she would always tell me they were really good, but I never thought like they were actually that good. I thought she was just saying that. And then over time, I realized, okay, maybe they are a little good. So I'd start showing them to other people, like at school, like teachers, and I got a lot of like guidance from teachers and other people who could help me with that. And then my mom had an idea that I publish them because she thought they were really good. But first, I actually won an award at the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards for one of my poems, and that's when I think my mom realized that like this was a good idea. And I actually at first didn't want to publish because I was like shy and like thought they weren't good poems. But over time I've realized that I think they are worth sharing with people, and yeah, that's pretty much how it happened.
You have,
Sorry.
you also have like that other book, right?
So yeah, this book is published by this Appley Publishing, and they I actually heard about them through one of my teachers at school, who she like made an announcement to people at school saying that they were starting this poetry competition. So I entered one of my poems, the same poem that actually that won at the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, and I actually didn't know that they published this. This is the 2019 Rising Star collection of poetry from wherever people like across the country enter into the competition, and I actually didn't know that they do this, but I got a letter from them after submitting my poem just into like the regular competition saying that they chose my poem for their Rising Star collection, and so we were like, yeah, totally, I'm all for it, and yeah.
And which poem is?
So the poem is called Hey Girls. I can actually read it.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be amazing.
Okay. I can't take it anymore. Everywhere I go, I see girls taking selfies, wearing makeup, trying to impress someone or another. I feel sick to my stomach when I see that this is all we are. After years of fighting for what we deserve, shouldn't we girls let our voices be heard? But no, stay quiet. Don't say a word. Just bring it all on. Eyeshadow, lipstick, blush, everything. Put on a fake smile, look pretty. Who cares if we aren't smart or witty? We're pretty, remember? And that seems to be all that matters. So keep on your makeup, post that last selfie if this is all you want to be.
Wow.
Oh, very powerful, and I love how
Yeah.
you embed the controversial topics, not shying away at all. That's I really like that, and I can see how it's gotten so much acknowledgement.
Yeah, so that's one of the things where, like, when I was younger, I really don't think I would have written something like that, and that's why there's so many different topics in the book, because when I'm younger, I didn't really write about things like this, and now as I've, like, grown up, I guess, I've started writing about deeper things or better things or more abstract things.
Were you nervous to put your poems out there? Not because you thought that they were like bad or anything, but because, you know, your words are something private, something sacred. It's like you're putting yourself out there for viewing.
Yeah, I was definitely really nervous because I just think like anything that is like personal, whether it be like writing or like performing or anything, just when you're putting yourself like out there, it's always like really like nerve-wracking. And for me especially, I get really nervous about these things, so I was like super nervous about publishing a book, and that's why at first I really didn't want to. But then as time went on and we went through the process, I got a lot more comfortable with it and realized like, because after a while I was getting like a lot of compliments from like teachers and stuff, and they were saying like, oh, this is really good, and they were like really like supporting me. And so then I realized that maybe this is a good idea, and so many people really think so.
Were you nervous because like there's people who could be like really mean out there, and they can like put really bad commenters or something?
I think that too, but not as much. I think for me it was all just like in my head mostly, because I just like always tend to get nervous when things really aren't that bad. And yeah, but I think that also does play in it, because like today with like social media and everything, when like your friends like see stuff, they tend to like say stuff sometimes. But yeah, I think everything just kind of like got to me, and I was like super nervous about it. But over time, I kind of came around, and yeah.
So how long does the publication process take?
So I'm not sure about like longer books or anything, but for me, this took like this. It spanned for pretty much this past like school year. So I was like working on it with my parents and like the publishers for the past like 9 months before it came out. So yeah, it was really just a back and forth process with like the publishers, and they would like, it's kind of like writing an essay, like there's like a rough draft and then the next rough draft until you get like, and then a lot more steps in between until you get to like the final draft. So they would like send us something, and we'd like send them our changes or whatever, and then when we finally realized everything was like good, that's when we would like put it all together.
How do you decide A, what poems go in there, and B, what order they're going to go in?
So yeah, for me, what I really wanted to do with this, because it was poems from like span of 5 years, I wanted it to be in chronological order. And so in the book, the poems have like the years they were written next to them. So I wanted it to be that way, because like I don't know, for me, I just felt like I wanted people to know like when they were written, so like people could like see like the growth and things like that, so they would know like how my writing and like style has like changed.
That's so cool. I'm glad I'm glad you write it, because I could I read it and they're so good.
Thank you.
I love them.
And I love the idea of like the chronological. Ooh, sorry, flower. Yeah, I think that's really I think that makes a lot of sense for someone who's been doing poetry for such a long time. But I feel concerned knowing how much good poetry you've written. Like the decision process, like how did you ever decide which ones were going to go in there?
Well, I think for me, actually, I felt like I didn't have enough poems, because like I was kind of like self-conscious about some of the poems I'd written like earlier on, because I thought they weren't like good enough. Like I wrote them when I was 8, 9 years old, that I felt like weird if people were going to see them. But I then realized like that's really the whole point. We're showing like how I've grown in terms of writing. So really, we just collected poems from all over the place, and I think we just wanted to include everything. I don't think there was really anything like cutting out or anything, unless I didn't feel comfortable with something. So I think it was actually the opposite.
So do you want to pursue poetry in the future?
I think it's definitely something I want to continue like seriously, but I've also like when I started writing poetry, it kind of came hand in hand with like songwriting.
Yeah.
And that's something I've also been like really passionate about, because I've started playing like instruments, and like composing and stuff has really come like easy to me as well as just poetry. So I think the two together are things like I'm really passionate about that I would definitely continue.
Which instruments do you play?
So I've been playing guitar for 2-3 years now, and I taught myself how to play ukulele, but pretty much my whole childhood, starting from when I was really young, I played violin, so that was like something really helpful, like making me kind of like a musical brain.
I always wanted to play some instruments and something, but I never started. So she plays piano and she plays really good.
Yeah, piano and like guitar are some things that I've always like wanted to try, because I loved like writing, and I always wanted to start like putting them to music, and so that's why I'm really glad I started playing like guitar, and I've been like singing and things like that, because they really help with like writing, not just songwriting, but also with poetry, because music can be like really inspiring as well.
So when you write a song, do you sometimes start with a melody, like, and then put words to it, or do you start with the words and then like put a melody to it?
So yeah, I feel like most people start with like a melody, or like if there's guitar or piano or something, like the chords. But for me, I just always start with the lyrics, because I guess I just always write, and a lot of times the melody comes with the lyrics, and then lately I've been like trying to play like chords and things like that with like guitar or even piano. Even though I don't actually like play piano, I'm just there like fiddling around with everything. But yeah, I think for me the lyrics always come first, with usually a lot of times with a melody like at the same time. I guess that's just how it works like in my head.
And how do you inspire yourself like to write?
For me, I just enjoy writing. Like for me, it's really therapeutic. So like if I've had like a bad day, even if I don't want to show somebody what I'm writing, I'll just write like paragraphs of just how I'm feeling, even if it's not something people need to see. But whenever I'm writing something that like is going to be out there, it's usually inspired by something like lately it's usually inspired by something in my actual life, or like a situation where I don't like mention names or anything like that, but then I'll take like a situation and just like write about it, because it just always comes out, and it's like a good way for me to like express how I'm feeling, like if I'm upset or annoyed or anything like that, or even good feelings too. It's just a good way to like express how I'm feeling.
So some of your writing is kind of like stream of consciousness. So with your poems, I know that like when you're publishing a book, you know, there's a lot of people looking at it and saying, oh, maybe you could fix this, but did you ever like revise like the actual poems, like change the words and stuff?
Yeah, so when I started taking like poems and finding stuff to put in the book, a lot of the poems I hadn't seen in like a long time. Like I hadn't even remembered writing them, because I'd written them like 4 or 5 years ago. And so when I was putting the poems together, there was actually a lot of like editing of like single words and commas and everything, because I consider myself kind of a perfectionist, so like I wanted every little thing like edited. Like my parents know how much of a headache I was in that process, because I'd always be going back and forth with the editors and the publishers, saying like this little thing and this little thing I want to change. So yeah, I definitely changed a lot of little things and big things as well in the book, in poems.
How was the process of finding a publisher that fit with your needs and values?
I'm not sure exactly all the details of it, because my parents did a lot of that, and they really helped me with a lot of that. But I know that my dad really like looked and talked to a lot of people that he knew, and I think we just found the right person, because they were just really interested and really eager to help publish my poems.
And at what point did you start letting people know that you were doing this? Or just, not even just the book, but just poetry in general?
I think most of my friends and like most of the people I know knew I was writing poetry, and that I like always write, and like I'm more of like the artistic type of person. But I never really told anybody about the book until it was actually published. But we did tell like close family and friends. But like people at school, even my closest friends at school, I didn't tell a single person until it came out. So it was like, yeah, it was.
That must have been.
It was kind of neat to see how they reacted.
A pleasant surprise, one would say.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know that you mentioned that you definitely want to go for it with like maybe music writing and definitely your poetry writing. But would you consider it like a career path, or something that you do more on the side?
I think in high school I'm gonna like discover more about like what I really want to do, but I think writing and songwriting is definitely something I could take as like a career path, but also I'm not sure like exactly what I want to do yet, because I do kind of have like a lot of time to really figure that out. And so, but definitely possibly a career path.
So how about a next poetry book?
Yeah, I've actually like my parents and like a lot of like teachers and friends have been telling me like, oh, I should write more, and I think I definitely will if I like really get like keep writing and just accumulate more poetry. I think the same way I did with this, I think I'll definitely try to write more.
How about other styles of writing? Are you like, do you only zoom in on poetry? Have you thought about writing like publishing like a longer work of fiction perhaps, or?
It's always been something like I've really been interested in, and I love reading like books. Like I love Harry Potter and all those types of books. But for me, I just feel like poetry just comes the easiest and is like really natural for me. But like writing short stories and stuff has been something we do in like school and things like that. But I think really for me, it's like mainly poetry and songwriting.
At the start of the interview, you said that like your book also has like natural things, like natural poetry, poems or something like that. So like how you inspire yourself to write like natural poems?
So like because I also do like photography a little bit, so I sometimes can take pictures of like a lot of landscapes or things like that, and when I see something that's like really pretty, I kind of just like to describe it and then go back and make it a little more like poetic. But like a lot of times it's just about finding the right words, and you can like really describe something really beautifully as if you are looking at it. Or I've written poems about like India because that's like where my family is from, and so like describing like the scenery there has been something I've been able to write just because like I've been there so many times, and it's like using like my thoughts and like memories and past experiences to like describe stuff. Or if I just see something like really beautiful, I'll try to describe it and just really go from there.
So another question about your book. So there's images as well as words, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I actually haven't been doing photography for as long as I've been writing. I started taking pictures and stuff in 7th grade, so like 2 years ago. But really when it all started was I submitted a photo to the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, and that photo was recognized. It got an honorable mention, and so it's actually the picture on the cover here, and that picture was actually what was called Hidden in Plain Sight when I submitted it to that competition. So when it came time to choose a cover photo for the book, we had this picture, and we thought it would be a good idea because it was recognized and it was kind of like one of my best pictures. And then we weren't sure what the title for the book should be, and then we realized that the title of the picture really fit with the book as well. But photography, I think I've been taking pictures of things for a long time, but I never really realized that it was something I could like delve deeper into until I was like recognized by the Scholastic Art competition.
Wow.
So
You're
like
just multi-talented.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
that's crazy.
So like the pictures or drawings that are in the book are yours?
Yeah.
Wow.
So really in the book it's mostly photography and some like drawings from when I was younger and things like that. But I've just like bring like my phone or a camera with me wherever I go and take pictures of anything, and I've always loved like playing with like the filters and like effects and digital effects and things like that, which are really cool. And a lot of pictures in here are those type of pictures of just like anything that I've been taking. Like a lot of pictures I take in the car, or like if we're driving and I see something really beautiful, I just snap a picture of it on my phone, and then later I'll go back and like edit little things in it, and then I realize that it's actually like a really cool picture. And so a lot of those type of pictures are in the book.
Wow, you're so talented.
I know, I was just thinking the same thing. So because we are running out of time, could you tell our viewers where they can find either of these books?
So I'm not sure about this one, but my book is available for purchase on Amazon. You just have to search up the title. It's called Hidden in Plain Sight, and my name is Anoushka Sharma. So you just have to go on Amazon, search the title and my name, and it'll show up. And you can buy it, and it should come in your mail by the next few days after you order it. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So would you like to finish us off with another poem, perhaps? Is there one that you have set aside?
So I have I have another poem here, if I can open it. And this one I wrote last year, and it's kind of just about like thoughts and how when your mind is wandering, you never really know like what can happen, and just like thinking about anything really. it's just like, so I called it Wanderer because it's like when your mind is wandering, you never really know what you're going to think of next. So, a sea, a quiet sea, stretching its long arms, far and wide, flowing deep, deep blue, and far too deep, a small boat, wandering, carrying a wanderer, adrift, with drifting thoughts, feelings unfelt, emotions unseen, a purpose never found. Twisted images come alive, the darkest shadows destroy all light, a nightmare never ending. Make it stop. I'm holding my breath but can't let go. Exhale, and it's gone, like dust blown away, all under my control. And all that's left is a wanderer wandering.
Bravo. I love that. It's
Thank
so
you.
descriptive. Like, I could picture it. I don't know, is there any last questions that you have? Okay, I was going to ask if you have any advice for young writers such as you once were and are.
Yeah, so I think writing is something that anybody can do. Like, you don't really have to have a specific skill set or anything. You just have to have an imagination. And I know that sounds a little cheesy, but it's true. And you don't really necessarily have to show people what you write, because writing can also just be for yourself and like really just a way to unwind or express yourself. And I've found for me that sharing my writing is something really cool. But really, writing is just like anything you do. It can be really whatever you want it to be. And so I just encourage everybody to try it. Even if you don't want to share it with someone, it doesn't have to be poetry. It can literally be whatever you want, and I think that's the beauty of it.
Well, I just like to thank you so much for sharing your poetry, for publishing the book in the first place, and opening up like a very private part of your life. Thanks for allowing us to interview you.
Thank you for having me.
And I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but Anoushka has already been on our show. She was on our show like 2 years ago, I think, 2 years ago-ish. And it's been nice. I'm just like so happy when people come back again.
Yeah.
And I feel like we both like really grown up. Like you seem
definitely.
a lot like older. And so just thank you for giving us the pleasure once again.
Thank you for having me again.
It was nice to meet you.
You too.